Hi everybody, my name is Tan from the AI Model Evaluation team. In this video, I'm going to walk through the process of running our AI evaluation framework, aka from library, to evaluate GeoChat. The objective of this tools is that it allows you to iterate quickly by making code change in GeoChat. It's effectively in GDK or GitLab, and see whether the output of GeoChat getting better or degrade. And this is just before we commit the change to production, so it's great. All right, so first thing first, to start running the from library, first we need to set up JDK. And then after the JDK setup, we need to head up to these documentations on the doc site to show you how to set up GeoChat. So the few things that we need to have, I guess, is to do with license. We've got some feature toggles that needs to be enabled and so on and so forth. So the GeoChat team maintain the great documentations on this, so I'm more welcome you to go through and try that out. I did that initially, so that's why I have JDK with GeoChat set up already. After the GeoChat, I think this is also in the same docs as well, show you how to set up the AI gateway. So AI gateway is effectively where we serve all the large language models with interface with Anthropic and Vertex AI and so on and so forth. So you need to have that set up as well prior to running these evaluations, or GeoChat won't work. And for the from library, we also had documentations on that. If you head up to from library repo, there's an instruction to how to set up GeoChat, so please follow that. As part of that process, you're also required to get access to the Def AI Research GCP account. So that's allow you to read the input data set from BigQuery and also output to BigQuery as well. It's also used to make call to Vertex AI models like TextBison, Gecko, and so on and so forth. So reach out to the team if you need access, and we're happy to give you that. After you had that set up, then the next step is to kind of plan out the evaluation runs, and everything is actually encapsulated in the evaluation config. I'm going to show you in a minute. So you need to update that and then run the evaluations, and then I'll show you how to view the result next. Okay, so this is the quick overview of our pipelines for the evaluation framework for GeoChat. So we have different pipelines for different use cases. So GeoChat will be different from code suggestions, so on and so forth. So from LibRunner, these are the series of steps that we run as part of these evaluations. First, we'll read the test cases, which is going to be from BigQuery. Later, we're going to extend it to take on different data sources, whether they're going to be local or or Excel sheets or so on and so forth. So this is at the moment it's only limited to BigQuery. So we already have a bunch of data set there. We have some open source one and also some that we curated within the GeoChat team as well. So in this exercise, I'm going to use an open source data set. It's called MPPP. This data set does not require a context to be seeded. So it makes it easier at first to run through these evaluations. I will do a follow-up video to show you how to do work with the data set that require a bit more context, like issues, epics, and so on and so forth. So to keep it simple, we start with MPPP for now. All right, so when we run the runner, we'll authenticate to BigQuery, fetch the data set, and pass it on to the from templates. We construct the from templates with the data from the data set. We batch these elements and we make concurrent calls, completion calls to a number of different models. and Duo Chat is one of them. So we treat the Duo Chat API as a black box, and always we also call TextBison and Claude 2 to compare the result. So if you pay attention to Duo Chat API here, there's an API endpoint that make available for us to do this test. And we can also use productions as well, but for the test, it's more likely we want to use the GitLab instances set up via JDK. And at the Duo Chat setup earlier, I mentioned if you get that right, it's also have the Anthropic connection as well with all the authentication needed. So behind the scene, it will call to, in fact, there's the gateway here and then the Anthropic API. So it doesn't actually call Anthropic directly, but via the AI gateway. So after it got the response or predictions from all these three models, they merged the answer, applied the from template, and it's run the route. It's called what we call judge, the LLM judge. This is the process of asking or actually submit all the answer to another large language model and ask to score it or do a bit of a ranking. So we're still kind of figure out, what these a few metrics here, but this is one of the one that we had at the moment. So we asked TextBison and also Claude 2 as well. So the two judges there, and they score the answer based on a number of criteria. We have, I believe, 3 at the moment, and we also asked the model to give an explanations as well. So later when I show you the result, it probably make more sense there. And after we got all that, we merged the eval to right back to BigQuery. And when we see the BigQuery table, this output, we have all the scores and so on and so forth. So recently, we also introduced another 2 metrics. This one is the collective judge. So we don't do individual scoring, but also ask the judge to score all the result at once, not individually, without seeing the other. And the other metrics we have is the similarity score, so we can kind of see what's the answer for what we say the ground truth. For example, if we say Claude 2 is the best performing model, we compare Duo Chat with that and see how well it's, or in terms of similarity, how close it is to Claude 2. And the idea is the lower the score, the worse perform that response is. So cool. All right, so that's the process. Like, this is the pipeline. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do this little exercise. So this is kind of I'll just zoom out here. So we have a local workers. We're going to run it. It's going to make call to the Duo Chat API. And the idea is the developer that working with Duo Chat can make code changes rapidly here. Like, they could just have to iterate through it, make the code change, run the evaluations, get the output, and then do it again, to see whether that change they made have any impact by looking at the metrics to see whether that's going to be better or worse, and so on and so forth. So that's the kind of the idea there. Okay, so you're going to switch to the terminal and show you how to run it. So this is the from library. So one of the main components of the evaluation is the config files. We have a number of configs that are available in data config, all these .example there, and you're more welcome to pick any of those and adjust it as needed. Previously already authenticate to the Vertex AI account. So you can see here, for this purpose, for the purpose of this demo, I'm gonna run the GeoChat MPP config. So I make a copy of that from testing GeoChat. You can see here, data config, and that, right? All right, so a few key things here. So this is the project where we have the input BigQuery table and the output BigQuery table, and also that's where the Vertex AI core will be attributed to. So each of these projects have set quarters. You're more welcome to use your personal one as well, but if you do like a lot of it, or the concurrency is higher than the allowed quarters, they're going to have issues or actually reject your call. So the one that we use is Dev AI Research. We have quite a generous quarters on this for testing. So you don't need to chain this. I would only need access to the Dev AI Research. The thing you want to change is effectively the input BigQuery table and the output, right? So the input BigQuery table, and I mentioned earlier, we want to use MPPP data set here. So we have a bunch of these versions of this data set. So we have validation set, we have test set, we have like a small and big one as well. So depending on what you need. So you can keep the defaults here, and we're trying to kind of update it to make sure that it's kind of like small enough, but it's also have good coverage as well for you to run. So you can use the default. So we're going to use the default here. The output BigQuery table, this is pointing to GeoChat experiment. So this is a namespace there. And the advice we generally give is you just put, in your initial, just use TL here, and then some descriptions on what you're trying to run. So for example, I've run chat eval MPP. I just put that there, or you can put a day stamp or so forth. So it's up to you. And if it's MPP, then we also need to have this adapter as well. So the default templates were given to you. You don't need to change that, so keep it as there. The eval setup is the interesting one, and this is something you should change to fit your needs. For example, GeoChat is always the one we want to validate, right? Because this is the whole objective, is making code change in GeoChat and then run through this process and evaluate to see what it's compared with. In this case, we want to compare the output of GeoChat with a more, I would say, superior models or foundation models, text Bison, Claw, something like that. In this test, I will use text Bisons, but I think more often than not we use Claw because we want to evaluate that with the vanilla Claw model. So here I use text Bison and GeoChat. So these are the models that will help to answer the questions I put in the chat. And the evaluating model, it can be a different models. I think it will be better to be a different models. It's often judged need to be fully probably not the one that answer it, because then there's a self-enhancement bias. If you use the same models, they tend to perhaps favor their own answer. So that there could be some biases there. So for simplicity here, I just use text Bison. We've got some issues with Claw in regards to limits and concurrency. So to make it easier, I just use text Bison in this case. Right. So this is the config. So you're more welcome to change it and see what fits you. Okay. So From Library is a Python project and it's managed by Poetry. So first thing, and there's the instructions already in the README, I just do rerun it again. In this case, you can run Poetry install to install all the dependency. And after that, poetry run from lib. If you're not sure, there's also help as well. It's quite useful. All right, so in this case, you want to run dual chat, and you can kind of keep going. So we group it by use cases or so, and then under dual chat, there's a bunch of other commands that you can execute. The one that will be interested for us at this point is the eval one. We also run other things to create data set, like synthetically using models to generate it. You don't need to worry that for now. I focus on the eval. Given that we have data set already, we don't need to do create that. So go eval, and you can see I keep typing out. You see there's other thing that we need to provide, and the config files are one of them. Right, so this is the config files, and I mentioned earlier, this is the files, the dual chat MPP config that I've used earlier, or I've modified earlier. This is the one I want to use. So if I hit enter now, it will go through that whole process I've illustrated earlier. Read the input data set, fetching a bunch of predictions, and then call models to score it. Right. In fact, let me change this to point it to a different output. So, for example, I can take demo, maybe. Yep. Cool. And let's save it. And we can go from lib run. So let's rerun that. So when we call run this command, if anything is missing, in particular around the authentications or missing keys, it will tell us directly here. So in this case, I would need access to text bison and dual chat. Now, dual chat, if you've seen earlier in the config, we had the URL also specified there. So it will point it to my local instance. You can see that's running behind the scene. The JDK here, if I tell the logs, you can, cd GitLab. You can see the logs here. That dual chat API got invoked, and you can see that's there. We also can see that so this is something wrong. And it's just to do with dual chat that's not started. So we want to make sure both of them started. So the JDK is definitely running. But I forgot to start my AI gateway. So this is the AI gateway, poetry run AI gateway. Right, so it needs to be running. Previously it's not. And I just go back to this and see these config files. So this one, the dual chat have another properties I've forgot to mention earlier. It's called, this is pointing to my local instance. It's JDK test A0A0. I'll be different for you, so maybe you don't use a name alias here, and you can use IP as well, 127 loopback address or so. So this is important to set that right. Previously, I didn't have this. I had this set up, but not the connections, or the AI gateway was not running, so that's why there's a problem there. All right, so we want to make sure that all that running, so this is running there. Let's rerun this job again. So we should see activity in JDK and also in AI Gateway. So this is the AI Gateway logs. We should see some activity there. So you can see there, there's coming through, which is great. So it's called JDK or GitLab, and then behind the scene it's called the AI Gateway, and AI Gateway will call Anthropic. So we're effectively testing the from logic that is in the JDK together with the response from the Anthropic API. Okay, so it's good. So let's switch back to here, and you can see that it shows some progress there. So now this is running in sequentially here locally, but the team also have another runner that can scale it much faster by running across different workers. So we're working on that process now to see, we can kind of tweaking this a little bit so you can run using multi-process rather than just sequential. This dataset, the MPP dataset that I use, only have 200 kind of rows or so. So it's not so big. So while it's running, I can show you what's the dataset look like. So I use a tool called BigQuery COI, and because I already authenticate to this account, I can run these select commands or so. So this is I believe this is not the one. So let's have a look at the input table. I think this sanitized here. So let's select the first 10 rows and I'll put a JSON format here. So the one we use for this test, we're just not worried about code or so at this point, because we want to evaluate just the chat response. So the prompt is effectively what we're going to feed into both of these models. No, actually, we feed into the text Bison models and also to the dual chat API, right? And this doesn't require any context of the issues and epics and so on and so forth. So it's very generic questions there. So we send this prompt to both models. We treat dual chat as a model, as a black box. So, and then we compared these, and we actually asked the other model, the text Bison model, to judge, to see this, to give the score of the answer for dual chat and the response that it gave as well. Okay, so that's the input. So I think the requesting is done. You can see here, requesting is done. Now it's getting the evaluations. Interesting. Yeah. So it's noted that sometimes the models doesn't return the correct format that we expected, and this case is to do with the evaluation. So when we ask it to evaluate, we give a template. Well, in fact, I can show you as well. Let's have a look at that. Data, config, prompt, and I think we have dual chat. So we have evaluating prompt. And you can see here, so we ask this to return or answer it given this format or schema. And sometimes we realize the model not always conform to that. So when we pass the result to plucked out correctness, readability, comprehensiveness, and so on, that could end up incorrect. So we're still working in this area to improve it. Either do and retry if the format is not right, also. Okay, so let's see if it's still going. All right, so it's done. So the evaluation is done. Now let's have a look at the output. Now you can, either go to the browser, go to GCP account, BigQuery, and you can see the table. And the table is effectively what we put in the config earlier. I have BigQuery command tools here, which I just gonna use it. So the one I've named earlier was demo, I believe, so MPPP demo. So at the moment, we will generate 2 tables because we use different kind of scoring system. At the moment, it's going to be 3 a little bit later or more. But at the moment, we've got 2 scoring mechanism here. One is to use the large language model as a judge. It's a single judge, and the other one is similarity scored. So the evaluate, and there's another comparison one. So I show you the demo, evaluate, see what it looks like here. So, or maybe we want to group by, or like, because I would expect to see 2 to output for each question, so 2 answer for each questions, and they got rating. So maybe great to order by questions. Text by something is not right. I didn't actually see anything from Duo Chat, so oh, here we go. Yeah, that's right. I just didn't read it right. So you can see here that the answering model for that question, so the bottom one for these questions, write functions to convert polar coordinates to rectangular coordinates. For text bison, it's the answer. This is the answer. The Duo Chat, I mean, and text bison, it gives you out this answer. So it's more direct. It goes straight out and give you the code. And the evaluating model give a score here. So in terms of correctness, that's 4. It's the same as Duo Chat. Comprehensiveness is the same. Readability is the same. So so there's not much of a difference there. It's interesting. This one actually gives you a bit of a text prior to that. Cool. I'm going to copy these questions. It'll be interesting to see what the similarity score between these 2 answer. So another table, I'm going to do where questions equal that. Hopefully my SQL doesn't help. What's that? Oh, maybe do a quote here, because we use single quote. All right, and the other one that we use, that's not evaluate, it's the score comparison, I think. Here we go. So comparison using similarity scored. Right, so the output of Duo Chat and Text Bison, we had only 2 here, but we got 3 that would be more output. So we'll do a pair comparison there. So the response from Duo Chat and Text Bison are very closely alike, like they're 0.94. So even though there's text-wise a bit different, but I mean in essence there, if you use constant similarity, it's the same. So the way we calculate this is we use text embedding gecko. So it's another embedding models to generate embeddings, and then just do dot metrics to see how close those are. semantically. So that's that. Okay, cool. So I think that's the end of it. And you can run it multiple times and record it with different names or so. Okay, thanks.